Hey everybody, happy Monday night. Today is May 15th, 2023. This is Across the Pitch. I am Mike Barrera. To my left, I have Jose Nunez. We are Daveless tonight as he is worked out and in England. So, Jose, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. It's obviously part of the deal with a third chair, making sure that we're able to continue to produce something for everybody, to continue to expect our show. So, despite missing Dave and we miss him dearly, we hope that we have a good show. Obviously, we have a gutsy performance to review and also look ahead at two. I think I said on Twitter, not must wins, but certainly could help us continue to climb. Now that we're shifting focus to one soul or maybe two soul competition. So excited to chat with you today, Mike.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. There has been a lot to talk about as of late. So we have the Open Cup, we have the Colorado game, we have the upcoming schedule. We have two games this week, so there's been a lot to discuss. So I'm just ready to get started here. And like I said, Dave will hopefully be with us next Monday. Like he does work for them overnight, basically. As of right now, it's what 2 o'clock in the morning over in England. So
Yeah.
his his schedule's a little bit crazy with what he does every single week. So again, we'll try to make the most of it without him. But in terms of the Open Cup, let's start there.
Yeah.
It was madness. The first 60 minutes or so were about as expected, right? It was new lineups. The chemistry was certainly starting to build for these clubs. The first half kind of went as I expected. And then the mayhem started, specifically from Minnesota just scoring two goals. We think that's it, it's over. And then your buddy and boy Chris Donovan score a goal out of sheer luck, and then Kai Wagner has his moments of excellence. So it was a lot to take in. A lot to take in. The ending, of course, did not go the way we wanted with the penalty kicks. Of course, not ending the way we wanted with the result, but still very exciting nonetheless. So, what were your thoughts on the Open Cup?
My thoughts are that, man, every single time I offer to do the post match press conference, it's always something unbelievable, right? To have a match go to the wire, what, two times, three times, and eventually go to PKs. I think the press conference started close to 12:30, 12:45 that evening here in the East Coast. So a very, very long night. But overall, you're right, Mike. It was telling that this was a team that, or a lineup, I should say, that was not used to playing with one another, right? The passing was just off.
Yeah,
Excuse me, either a little bit behind, a little bit ahead, or right at the body, never where it should have been. You could tell there was a little bit of frustration. You could tell that some players were just lost, confused, and frankly, I must admit, when I was mentioning what we would chat today, I already tried to forget about that U.S. Open Cup because of the shivers it puts down my spine, right?
it
Thinking
was.
about another penalty kick loss like that.
Yep, it was very MLS Cup esque. Um,
Yes, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, listen, let's look at the bright spots here. So we saw Jacob Glesnes had another son. So congratulations to him. I know that
Yes.
that's why he missed that performance. We know Ali Bedoy was dealing with load management, so he didn't make the trip out to Minnesota. Honestly, it doesn't seem like anybody made the trip out to Minnesota because the stands were empty. But besides,
Oh my god. That was unbelievable.
it was so empty. It felt very much COVID game esque, COVID season esque. Um,
Yeah, that's a
but
great way to describe it. I mean, I was
yeah,
I was telling to my wife, what we were watching the game, or she watched the first half and then she went to bed, which was probably on her end probably ended up being the right decision. But of course, we are sick people in the head and we watch every minute of this damn thing. Um, but someone was not arguing, but commenting online of like, I'm not sure that Philadelphia could do better at
I saw that.
putting people into the stands for a match like this. This is a U.S. Open Cup problem, which goes to what Don Garber said in a recent meeting with the U.S. Open Cup organizers, and just really calling out that the product is not what it should be. But I would dare argue that we could do five, six times over what we saw at Minnesota for a midweek game. If the Champions League is anything to go off of when we were going to those Tuesday and Wednesday games, Mike, I reckon we could get a good crowd for a US Open match.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, I mean, the two franchises are in different spots right now. Obviously, right? Minnesota is still a team that really hasn't had any sort of significant playoff run or anything like that. The Union have obviously been much further along in their time in the MLS. So it's hard to compare the two. But from the fan base standpoint, there's no way the Union will allow their stadium to be that empty. Even back, years ago, there was such a much more of a presence at the Open Cup games than what we saw on Tuesday. And that doesn't say a lot because there wasn't a whole lot back then either. But it was still more than what we saw at Minnesota. And the TV just made it look worse because it just kind of highlighted all the empty seats and didn't really ever show the support that much.
Did they shift fans directly underneath the
Yes.
camera? Is that what the maybe the
It's
stadium organizers did? Because
it
that was
seems like it.
such an awful decision, right? We enter the competition with 32, 16, 8, 4 final, 5 matches to go to a championship game.
Yeah.
And you have teams like USL teams that have already played maybe 2, 3 matches, right? And to have that type of display with 5 wins away from lifting up a trophy, never mind a trophy that gets you to the CONCACAF Champions League and
Yeah.
show that on television, even if it would have been sparse and spotty, that is not a good look. Such an awful look for Minnesota.
And I just don't know. I mean, like the fact that the game was shown on Bleacher Report YouTube, it's just so poorly. Like, there's no dedication to the tournament at all.
You
There
know,
really,
I
and it's funny too because the Hunt family own the Chiefs. It's not like the Hunts don't have like some sort
right.
of like big significant pull in the sports world. So you wonder if they can help out in some way. Like, why is it so? I mean, especially because everybody loves an underdog, right? We all love underdog stories. So why not have teams like what was it, the Pittsburgh River Hounds or something like that?
Put some respect on their name.
Exactly. They had these underdog teams competing
Yeah.
against MLS clubs, and it just seems to completely get
Uh,
no recognition.
Mike, I think I would push back a little bit to your comment on it being on a YouTube channel. I'm all for accessibility. Obviously,
Fair
when you
enough.
have an Apple deal and it brings up the overall product in terms of quality, that's great. But
Yeah.
I will never take that over, I typically wouldn't take that over accessibility. I mean, whether you realize it or not, I mean, obviously you were going to the games a heck of a lot more than I was. I was raising a child early on, etc. With last year before the Apple deal, where those live feeds that we used to get on the website, sure they were accessible, but they were not YouTube. So to have these matches on YouTube, an extremely reliable video player that doesn't
Fair enough.
stutter, doesn't unsync the sound to the video was awesome. But it remains that the camera crew felt amateur. I don't believe that it was the Apple folks that were behind the camera. It must have been someone else. It didn't feel great because I don't think the camera was really following the ball very well when it was in flight or in open play. Never mind replays, right?
Right.
And I'm still intrigued. There's no VAR in the US Open Cup, right?
I don't know
Despite having
why.
it in the stadiums.
I don't understand why. I don't know what benefit it comes of it. I don't know if there's some sort of financial thing behind it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And again, the tournament's not new. It's been around for a while, right?
I'm
So
I'm
why
wondering if
not?
I'm
Yeah,
wondering if it has to do in the happenstance, especially early on, where you have the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, the Sacramentos of the world, all of these USL teams that don't have that technology. That if you want to implement it from the get go, everybody has to be on board. Otherwise, you have issues where, let's say, I actually don't even remember who was going where, but if an MLS team went to one of those smaller venues and there's no VAR,
yeah.
versus them being at home and having VAR
Fair
available,
point.
there you get into some issues of parity in the product. And we keep on going back to it. And listen, I enjoy any game. You have people, and I think we both have read of people commenting of like, now they can focus on the league. Now they can focus on the league, and that's
They
all.
are.
And that they are, and that's all good and great. But let's not forget that great teams figure hey Dylan,
I don't.
figure out how to compete across multiple fronts. And I thought we were a great team. Obviously, we're also lamenting exiting the US Open Cup early, which sure it's deserving. But let's not lose sight that we were just at another semifinal for the Continental Cup, right? That's awesome. So
Yeah, it's
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 great.
hard. It's hard to stomach the fact that we got knocked out of two cup tournaments within one matter of a week, week and a half.
Yeah, it's tough.
Um, It is very tough, but regardless, that's not the point. We did it, and now we can focus on the MLS. And speaking of focusing on the MLS, we went to Colorado.
We
Uh,
did.
Jose, you and I had a successful bet the boys in blue.
Oh
You
my God,
predict
Mike! You can put your child's 529, your 401k, your Roth IRAs, put them behind my bets. You'll make
sure.
money.
You predicted the 2-1 score as well as the Gazda goal. I predicted the Union money line and what did I say? I forget the other one I had.
I think you meant to say Carranza goal.
Oh, Carranza. I'm sorry. Yes, the Carranza goal. Thank you. The Carranza goal.
It
The
makes
two
it
to the,
all that more impressive that I got it right.
right. The 2-1 score that both teams were going to score. That's the one I had, and
Hmm.
then the Union win. So I had the draw no bet, but that counts for the win there. So it was a very successful day for us on the betting side of things. But the Union ended up pulling out a 2-1 win. Now I want to discuss the first goal because it involves your boy Damian Lowe. And
Yes.
now I was at Zed's on Saturday night. It was a good time. Um, and the crowd there was not pleased with both the outcome as well as what happened. I know you and I had talked on Twitter as well, so I want to hear your thoughts on Damian Lowe. For those who don't know, one of the Colorado players was right on the edge of the box. Damian comes in very hard, and then the foul was called. So go ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I rewatched that play leading to tonight's podcast, and fully knowing that we would probably discuss it, considering our group chat blew up. I think between you, myself, and Dave, within like 2 minutes of that of that happening, there were like 15 messages that went through, whether it
Yeah,
was, that was a PK or that was a bonehead play, etc. In my eyes, the way I saw it was, I don't even know who the offensive player was. I can't even recall the name of the player. I must admit, I'm not too, I'm not brushed up on Colorado's roster. I only, care about Keegan Rosenberry. He wasn't even on the bench. Um,
yeah, I was surprised by that.
yeah. Um, no, I mentioned it. I'm surprised that Damien didn't just contain. Um, sure, the body was sort of angled towards the way that the ball was coming, and the player was trying to, I think, spin away
Right.
from Damien. Um, really surprised that Damien went and tried to take a bite out of the ball right there, especially with the fact that the next player was immediately behind him to his back. So it would have taken either an incredible dummy between the legs of Damien or a crazy Ronaldinho like spin around Damien to get a pass,
Right.
because the next player for a layoff was 10, 15 yards away, I think. So I think if you have Andre Blake in net and you concede a layoff to a player 10, 15 yards away from the 18, that person's not shooting. They're going to try to spray it out to the wide angle, So just a weird bonehead move, though. I'm intrigued for your take.
No, I felt the same way. Just from me playing, I played defense when I was playing soccer, and I looked at them like, what's the logic behind it?
Right.
So you get an aggressive. Now, granted, last week we complimented Damien for being an aggressive player,
We did.
but you have to know when to pick those battles. For one, on the edge of the 18 is not one of those moments. But
No.
two, you're right. You're absolutely correct. Andre Blake just rarely gets beat from deep. I mean, it's we saw the goal from Miami, of course, earlier this season. We had two goals
Both of
from
them.
both of them, right? But that was few. I mean, that's few and far between. It really is. So the fact that he decided to go that intense, especially when you really needed to just have a good, strong first half, because we felt like we could beat them. I mean, we were all talking like, okay, they're probably going to win if not draw. So then why put yourself in that predicament in the first, what was it, 25 minutes?
Yeah, it was early, and the I described it to you, and when I posted the link on for the Reddit folks, and even to my wife, it was gutsy, and this is sort of what I wanted to see out of the Union, right? Claw back.
Mhm.
Last time we saw this after the was before the terrible LAFC loss, and I think must have been maybe when we clawed back something at Atlas.
Right.
So to see that type of grit and that type of desire to fight, and to get a goal from somebody who we did not expect, with Kai with that type of strike from as far as it was awesome, right? It gave me hope for once of this team. And again, I'm not trying to be, hyperbolic or anything like that, but I think this season has been a lot of downs more than ups, unfortunately.
No, but it was so we went with three in the back, which I like that we did. We went, the three center backs out there with Kai and Olivier on the wings. Um, I mean, I think you noticed as well, but I noticed it early on. Really, the Uni were just attacking their left side a lot. They were going down the right like crazy. Olivier was very involved. I thought Olivier had a solid game, um, which I've been wanting to see all season to have him be very involved offensively speaking.
Yeah, it's
But
another really good game because he had a really good one against Atlas when we were there. He was
yes.
he was burning that right side quite a bit.
Yeah, so it was good to see him active. I mean, the sequence alone, Bedoya did a good job to hold that ball up, find Carran's, all that stuff. And then Carran's had a very bad miss early on in the game. He basically beat the keeper, had a tight angle, but still should have at least put it on target. And he completely just whiffed on it.
He just
But,
didn't wrap his foot around it.
right, yeah,
I always say this to my wife, and I think any adult that played soccer, whether it's a female talking to a husband or a husband talking to a wife, you watch a play like that and you've played soccer before, you would say something along the lines of like, I would have scored that. And honestly, I would have scored that.
yeah.
You just wrap your foot around it, put a little bend, you already have the keeper on ice skates. There's for someone of his caliber and what we have seen him do, I was very surprised to see that miss.
I was too, but at the same time, he's had a couple of those misses in the past. And if you had to compare the two forwards, Uwa is certainly the better finisher compared to Carranza. I mean, I think we've all kind of determined that. But regardless, it was one that he should have had and he didn't. But I thought what I liked the most about the Kai Wagner goal wasn't just the goal, which was incredible, by the way. He's had three bangers within the matter of what, a week and a half, a week or so. It was the fact that Carranza kept his head up and didn't just wildly shoot at the net or try to, or turn the ball over the box. He kept his head up, had a good pass back, and I know Dave was calling for that a couple weeks ago when Daniel or not Daniel, Julian had that really bad turnover entering the final third against I forget, I think it was Toronto or one of the teams we had at home, where he's just not playing with his head up. So to see Carranza have that assist and then the goal later on, which is great. The goal that did come later on, which was I think the 52nd minute, right, 53rd. It was early in the second half.
I believe so.
Yeah, again, Olivier did a great job, not just sending it into the box, but finding that trailing man with Julian, and then
Yep.
Julian just puts just enough on the one timer to kind of send it in. And again, I know Dave has mentioned this a couple years ago. I know we've kind of talked about it briefly this season. Not being afraid to put a shot on target right away, and
Right.
not just always trying to find the perfect pass, and always trying to find the. It was just Julian seeing the ball, one timing it, and putting it right on target. And even though it was technically hit the keeper, it caught him off guard just enough to get into the net. So I was happy for Julian. I really was because I think he needed a game like that where it wasn't just some you know, crappy goal. He really had an overall solid performance on that night.
Probably his best performance since the Columbus home opener, right? Where he had that very beautiful, tidy finish up against the near post. So
Yeah,
you're not wrong. It's nice to see him. Yes, yes, Val.
she
It's nice
says.
to see Carranza get that confidence.
Yeah, and Val, thanks for joining us. He was so psyched after the game regarding Olivia and Bizo. So again, it was a good performance. It ended with quite the brawl. So if you guys again missed the game, in the stoppage time moments right there, Andre Blake gets shoved from behind, right by the boards too that lead to the walking section behind the net, and the center back just went crazy. They go tackling. Jesus Bueno comes out of nowhere
Yeah,
and just tackles somebody to the ground.
like a
Glessons gets
magnet.
yeah, Glessons gets tackled to the ground. I know I saw Damien shoving somebody else. So again, I mean, do you want stupid red cards? No. Jesus Bueno will be missing the next game now because of that. Granted, I think Jose Martinez should be back for Wednesday based off what we've been hearing so far. So I guess in a way, it's if there was ever a time to do it, it'd be now. Um, but you like to see that fight from them. You like to see that they're defending their players and sticking up for their one of their leaders. So what did you think about the little post game brawl?
um, I'm never a fan of those, though. I think Jim agrees, right? I think his comments right after the match were very clear that he found it to be meaningless, I think was the word he used.
Hmm.
Um, but you're right. It's really nice to see teammates show that passion, show that fire for one another, especially with the turbulent season that they've had. And, go back one game, Jim has already mentioned and made it, apparent to folks in the media and really the fan base that, hey, whether you realize it or not, we've already played half an MLS season. So we are going through a gauntlet. So to lift one another up with something like that, as meaningless as Jim mentions, it just shows that they care for one another. And maybe that's the passion that ignites a 6-0, 7-1 win against DC United at home this Wednesday. Never mind, continue to climb and try to get some points off of Eastern Conference leaders on Saturday, I believe, against New England. So
Hmm.
it's it's interesting. I think Bueno getting a red card makes Jim's job even easier with in terms of selection in a way.
Sure.
So um, you hate to see it, but also morale wise, maybe is what that team needs in a way, if that makes any sense in a weird roundabout way.
Well, yeah, it's so there's been so much soccer lately, and I was talking to somebody at Zed's. I was actually talking to Justin from Dupe on the River Pod, so it was nice meeting him. I think I met all of them now. I haven't met Zach. I know for sure I haven't met Zach. I've met Johnny. I've met
You've been through the gauntlet of podcasts for
a
that
podcast.
Philadelphia podcast that
I
just
have.
it keeps booming.
I've met Todd, Kyle, all everybody from Jillian. I met Jillian from the podcast from the one team we all agree on. So I've been making my rounds, but
Who were at the game?
yes, they're very dedicated fans. I do appreciate that. So, Kyle and
Yep.
Jillian, good for you guys for going out there. I know Todd was actually out there with his girlfriend. I think her name is Shelby, if I remember correctly. But regardless, I've met all three of the four of the Dupe on the River pod guys. So it was good to talk to him. But anyway, I was speaking to them about um, just the season and how it's gone so far, and we have played a lot of soccer. I mean, more than people realize. To play half a season, half of an MLS season and it's only May 15th,
It's
it
wild.
it's a lot of soccer. I mean, seriously. So I give these guys a lot of credit for being able to stick it out, and hopefully these injuries start kind of settling down because Michael Uwa was also absent on
Yep.
Saturday because he had a bit of fluid in his knee. So it seems like it's precautionary. It doesn't seem like it's anything too crazy. But again, Michael Uwa had an injury last year with a hamstring. Now this year he has a knee issue. So
Have you ever seen the liquid drained out of a knee?
I've never seen it. Have you?
It used to be a very, very thick, long needle to get in there.
Yeah, I'm glad I've never seen it. Speaking of needles, wait, speaking of needles, I finally got
Yeah, I
My
figure
union tattoo.
when are we gonna be flashing that shiny thing?
I'm
Still a
say
little red, but it looks great, Mike.
gonna
Congratulations.
put it on the for those who haven't seen it on my Twitter or YouTube, I mean Facebook, whatever. So it says Ad Finum Fidelis, and it has the snake skin peeling through my human skin. So if you guys need a good tattoo artist, his name is William Webb from Evolution Tattoo Studio in Bridgeton, on Bridgeton Pike in Mantua. So Evolution Tattoo Studio on Bridgeton Pike in Mantua, New Jersey. Great guy. He's on all my tattoos. And trust me, it was well worth the wait. It took me 4 months to book it. And I think he told me he's booked out till September. So whoever wants a good tattoo, call him up and just start saving your money for the fall. So yeah, but no, I'm excited, man. I don't know what I'm gonna get on my left side now. I gotta kind of even it out eventually.
My name, Dave's name,
Yeah,
our Twitter handles
across the pitch on my left
across
arm.
the pitch of Val's Facebook comments.
Yeah, right. A trail of Valerie's comments across my arm. Yeah, so it was a good time to get that done. But in terms of again, like, hopefully he comes back for Wednesday. If not, they'll probably push him to Saturday. But we know Quinn Sullivan's gone.
Yep,
We know Jack McGlynn is gone. Of
finally
course,
gone.
finally gone. Of course, Brendan Craig is gone as well, which of course would not have been as important for Wednesday. But now you're thinking you're missing a couple players in the midfield for Wednesday, right? Because you don't have McGlynn, you don't have Bueno, you don't know how healthy Martinez is either, and you don't know how healthy Michael Uwa is. So is this a moment where you see maybe Andres Pereira come in off the bench? I don't know, Jose. What do you think about the lineup for this Wednesday?
I would love it. I'm a Perea stan, and sure, the US Open Cup was not his greatest performance, but nonetheless, I think what he has shown us uh, outshines what we saw in that madness of a game that it was against Minnesota. But I don't know. I wonder if Jim sticks to the three in the back. I mean, we've been calling for Damian to continue to play, continue to get some time, and to see what we saw was awesome. Minus the obviously penalty kick, but
Right.
you take that blemish away, and a big blemish nonetheless. Want to acknowledge it. Thought he had a great game, but then you start thinking, Elliot, what do you do with him? Do you and I think he has done it in the past for us. Does he shift over to the 6 and then we move Flock out wide if we're a little shy about putting Perea in for whatever reason? So I'm really I say intrigued so much in this podcast. I apologize. I'm really interested to see what Jim comes up with.
See, now here's a thing that he said that interests me a bit. He said, "I want to do three in the back more on the road when other teams like to possess more." We know with the Union, though, that they typically are not a high possession team,
I was gonna say we get outpossessed even on games that we win. Like
and at home.
yeah, this previous one, I think we had 47, 48%. So let's not act like, and even it gets much worse. Even at home, I think we've had wins where we only had the ball
30,
41%.
yeah, that's where I didn't really understand the concept that he was going with. If we had been a high possession team at home, I'd say, okay, I get where he's going with, but we're not. So for me, it's, well, we want to put the best starting 11 on the field every single week, right? To do that, you would want the best 11 players on the field every single week. The reality is Jack Elliott had a solid game in Colorado. He's still a very solid center back. He's not regressed, remarkably this season, although he hasn't had the best year. But putting him, Glesnes, and Damien together seemed like a better fit overall for the three of them, at least from my opinion on Saturday. And then you have the ability to then use Kai and Olivier. And look what happens with Kai and Olivier. Olivier was so much more involved on Saturday, which is what we've been wanting to see. Kai Wagner obviously has been more involved now offensively. So why not do it on Wednesday? What's stopping us from doing it on Wednesday? I mean,
Jim's
especially
intuition.
yeah, why not? But especially with the availability we have now in the roster, right? If you assume oh my god, Matt Glenn, McGlynn won't be there, who fills a spot on the left? Perea?
I'd like to see him,
Because
but
if Leon Flock starts again and Jose can come off the bench just to kind of get his minutes back up, then you would have the same lineup.
hey, on that point, do you agree with the commentators of this of the Colorado match? They
What they say?
dubbed what's that?
What they say?
Oh, they dubbed McGlynn as the best passer in the Philadelphia Union squad. I think they forgot about Gastag.
They said that right as Olivier was fed the ball before Carranza scored. Is he the best passer on our roster? That's a good question.
I think it's tight, and yes, like I think about that lofted ball that he put for a Carranza earlier in the season, where Carranza was had a great touch and then finished it. But let's not forget that Gazdag does a great job of breaking down defenses with his passing. But obviously, he's known more for his penalty kicks this year, but open play, et cetera, et cetera.
But I think you also have to compare the positions they play. When you think of McGlynn's passing, you think of more of a long distance pass, more of a
Sure,
spreading the field pass, whereas as Gazag is much more, here's
breaking
my
lines.
breaking lines, the final through ball to get to Ua or Carranza. So I think it's different. I don't think McGlynn could do what Daniel does and vice versa. I don't know if Daniel will be as effective from playing out the back as we've
Probably
seen with.
not.
So I can agree and disagree with them in part. But the lineup, like I said, it's kind of it could be the same thing we saw against Colorado, and also we've said this time and time again: if it's not broken, don't fix it. If this is what we produced on Saturday, why not try against DC? What are we losing by trying again?
I don't even know, and this is awful on my part, but how is DC doing this year? Obviously, Christian Benteke has had some good games and some good goals, ninth on the table. So this year, right now, ninth on the table gets you into that play-in game tournament thing, whatever the hell is going on with the playoffs this year. So they're in a not bad spot considering how abysmal they were last year.
They were very bad last year. So the recent 5 games from DC United. Let me look at their recent 5 game schedule here. So they hosted Nashville and drew. They lost the Red Bulls in
That's a good
Harrison.
draw. That's a really good draw.
It is a good draw. They lost to the Red Bulls in Harrison. They lost to Cincinnati in Cincinnati. They beat Charlotte 3-0, and they beat Richmond in the Open Cup, and they beat Orlando in Orlando 3-1. So they've
That
had a couple decent games.
that's a good
I
win.
I would be concerned for DC United on Wednesday from just the revenge standpoint. I mean, we embarrassed the shit out of them last year. We
Yeah,
really did.
it was so much fun.
If there was ever a team that didn't like us right now, it'd probably be DC United because we beat them 6-0 and 4-0, didn't we?
Something like that. It was some crazy, aggregate score of over what plus 7 or 8. It was something crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, you have to think in terms of just wanting to get back at us. The problem is, of course, they're coming here first rather than going down there to kind of host it. But I'm concerned with DC. I feel like you don't really don't know what you're going to get from them this year. They obviously can put together performances compared to last year. They were just terrible from top to bottom.
To be fair, I'm concerned about every MLS team against the Union this year. I don't have that confidence that we had last year, right? So,
No,
it really comes down to what not who we put out, but what the players selected put out on the field, right? Because we have capable players that should be able to hang with every single roster, including the LAFCs of the world, including the crazy to think St. Louis's of the world, who are having another great. They're having their first season be a great one.
they just
Uh,
lost to Chicago though.
okay, that's an awful loss. But nonetheless, we have a roster that's deep enough and good enough that they should be able to hang with just about everybody. It's just who shows up that evening, right? And what do they put out? Though maybe just maybe the stadium will help on Wednesday, though, a Wednesday game not as well attended as a Saturday game. So we'll see what the stadium looks like.
I'm sure it'll be good. The weather looks like it's going to be holding up pretty nice as well.
Oh
But
yeah.
the Union are going to be happy to be back home. They've been on the road now for a while. They were in Minnesota. They were in Colorado. They went to LA. So they haven't been home since we went to the CCL match against LAFC. It's been a
Hmm.
it's been a while.
It's been
Um,
nice for my mileage.
yeah, seriously. So it's been nice to kind of have that road break for us as fans. But I'm itching to get back into that stadium. I'll be there Wednesday night in the press box. Speaking of it, let's do a little announcement for us since it's now official. For
Is
now,
it official? Official?
I texted her earlier today, so
Yeah,
she'll be
confirmed.
there. Yes,
Great.
confirmed. So, for those of you who haven't been following us since day one, when Dave and I first started with AAT Birds, which is now AAT Sports, we were just Eagle writers. I did a lot of handicapping for gambling and stuff like that, but we decided to do the union stuff, and it's been working out these last 3 seasons. And then Jose, of course, you joined. So
I
Jose has
barged my way in. Let's just call it what it is, right?
you muscled your way in. So Jose, how did you meet Margot again?
uh, she is a contractor for my employer.
That's right. So Jose has made a contact with a photographer by the name of Margot Reed. I'm going to pull up thanks Dylan. He said it was 7-0 and 6-0 last season. So thank you. It was a beatdown. It was embarrassing for them, not as much embarrassing for us. So again, back
Plus
to the
13.
yeah, right. So Margot Reed will be our photographer on occasions for Union games. She will be there on Wednesday evening with me for her first match with AAT Sports covering the game. I'm excited to see what she can put out. I know she's done. I'm going to read off some of the emails she sent us over earlier this week. She's a photographer local to the Philadelphia area who's had her work published in People, the Associated Press, and the Philly Inquirer. She actually just had a bit of a segment on the women's Villanova basketball team. So very, very cool work that she's been putting out. If you follow her on margotreedstudio.com as well as Margot Reed Studio on Instagram, IG, check out her work there. So we have a fourth person now on the Union bandwagon here at AAT Sports, which is very exciting. So we're looking forward to seeing the photographs she puts out. And we're just trying to, have her get her connections in the soccer world and excited to have her join. But Jose, any thoughts on Margot's join the team here?
No, it was just sort of happenstance. When I met her, I obviously just started at my new employer. I'm like in my second month, I think, going into my third month, which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy. But nonetheless, she has high aspirations. She was very clear that, hey, um, I told her that I do this kind of for fun and whatever, whatever. And I enjoy doing it, being on the podcast with you and Dave and interacting with fans and fans just like myself. Um, and she was very quick to say, my goal is to photograph the 2026 World Cup. How can you help me? So it's like, well, we have press credentials. Does that help you? And she's like, yeah, let's talk. So she is very determined. She wants to share her vision with us, and I think different fan groups will appreciate it. I think Sons of Ben will get some nice pictures through us. I think Section 140 and the KSU will also get some nice pictures, and all around just eager to have her on board and whatever capacity she decides to get involved in. It's just, Mike, you said it right. I remember the humble beginnings of the show where I would come in and just, hey, I listen every week. Here are my predictions. What do you guys think? And we would typically line up, or I would come out of left field with something, and just like bet the boys, I would come in right. So it's been fun to see the growth. So to have her join us and provide some images that she's more than happy to allow us to use and share with all of you. You can't do anything but love it.
Exactly. The World Cup aspiration is pretty cool. So hopefully we can, scratch her back, she scratches ours, help each other out, and kind of just build a brand and again, enjoy soccer to the best of our ability. So again, Margot Reed at margotreedstudio.com. So please check her out. And hopefully Wednesday night, well, I guess, after the game Wednesday into the week, we'll see a bunch of photographs from her. And
Yep.
I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see what it looks like. But in terms of the union's form at the table right now, we've been talking about the MLS recently. The Union, despite all this Open Cup and CCL madness,
I
have
was
been
gonna say we don't have much to talk about, but the league now, right?
yeah,
And League's
exactly.
Cup.
It's been hard to focus on the positives these past couple weeks because of the losses, but they have now scored or have earned 10 points in the last 4 games. They drew against Chicago, and they've won 3 in a row. They beat Toronto, the Red Bull, and now they beat Colorado. You find yourself in fifth place, 7 points behind first place. We have a game in hand. We're a game behind them right now. I think we played 11 games in the MLS. So Wednesday will be our 12th. And then we host New England. If we beat DC United on Wednesday, then we'll only be 4 points back from New England.
Hmm.
A win against New England puts us 1 point back from first place. And we talked about this earlier this month, Jose. We can put the MLS to the side for a bit because we're still in striking range of everything. How did we get here, Jose? Because it seems kind of a little. Uh, yeah,
It,
go ahead.
it's interesting, right? Some things have shaken our way, and some things have not. Obviously, CONCACAF being the most difficult one to swallow and work through, and just how pathetic that loss in LA was. Obviously, that's a good team that we went up against, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, but as Val mentions, the U.S. Open Cup took a lot of attention out of folks, and New
Hmm.
England being one of them, losing to a USL team,
Yep.
which is always fun to watch,
Yes.
unless it's against you. Um, but nonetheless, this is this is going to be a nice, I think, shift the focus for the team and for the players, and maybe this wakes up some players and thinking, okay, well, my opportunities are getting slimmer and slimmer by the minute to get minutes, so I really need to buckle down, right? You never mind having a coach who doesn't rotate as much as we'd like, but to have fewer and fewer competitions for the Buenos of the world and the Pereas, and obviously Damien getting some more time now. Maybe other competition could have helped him. They just got to work that much harder to get into the two final competitions, right? The U.S. Open Cup and the Leagues Cup. Though I'm intrigued onto how we approach the Leagues Cup and what the league is demanding out of teams, what the expectation is for teams, because it could, if there's any, right, the MLS could just be saying, go have fun and great, we have more content for the Apple deal. But is there an expectation for teams to put out starting 11s? I
I
don't
think
know.
I think if anything now you will, especially because the league's on hold that whole month, right? It's a month long. All
Right.
the games are being held, so you're not focusing on two different leagues. You're focusing only on the cup. With the Union being where they're at right now, even let's say so the League's Cup starts what, July 11th, right?
It's scary how close it is.
Okay, so it's 2 months from now. So if you remember last May, the month of May was like we called it the May Gauntlet. It was very,
Mhm.
very difficult, very difficult. This month of May seems a bit easier on paper to manage, and now with us being removed from those tournaments, especially, it feels like everything's just now us there for the taking. If you run through May, you release top three or so, you're riding a pretty good momentum into League's Cup.
Mhm.
I think you go for it. I mean, you can't not go for it at this point. You already missed out on three separate trophies, right? You're already too far behind the Supporter Shield. Well, maybe not.
Uh,
If they keep winning the way they are, maybe not. So your Supporter Shield is at a distance. Open Cup, CCL Cup, that's gone. I mean, and also think about it this way: you're hosting two of the games against Mexican squads. So you have a very good chance of getting out of group stage and advancing to some extent in the tournament.
yeah, you're not wrong. I see it more as a bean counter to have to win something, and I've mentioned this to you, and I think on Twitter of when you think about the ledger and you think about the the money, qualifying to the Champions League is something that we need to do, right? I know we
Sure.
don't spend a lot, so when we do get money, hopefully it's good money to keep. Never mind the engagement and frankly the continental trying to build a brand, right?
Right.
We I do not want the Champions League to be an LAFC, Seattle, LA Galaxy type of competition. I want to make sure, and I would like for the Philadelphia Union to be known to be like the last couple of years to be constant parts or consistent parts, I should say, of that competition. Never mind the income that it brings to the team when you host, what was it, two home games?
Correct.
Yeah, two home games before we three actually. Yeah, then we host three Atlas, LAFC, and then I forget who the
Alianza.
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 Yes. So 3 home games for just the I was gonna say bookstore. Obviously, I work at a college, but the team store to be open, for concessions to be open, parking to be, uh, I hate to be the money guy, but it certainly can't hurt the team in that sense. But I guess where I ultimately fall on is just the ability to continue to grow the brand, and a continental tournament is how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, and also if they were to win the tournament, it's not like they're playing a bunch of USL squads. I mean, they're playing decent competition. As the tournament goes on, too, you're going to be playing against very tough competition. To me, I feel like it holds some weight, and if they win it, I'll be very happy with it because they won something that's hopefully of more significance online. But again, to your point, I think the biggest thing for us is it's another way to enter the CCL. And if you can guarantee a ticket to the CCL every single season, then that is worth fight. That is worth playing for. That
It sure
trophy.
is.
That trophy has a meaning to it. It's not just something you just put on there and dust once a year. That actually has a meaning to it. So for
Well,
me,
that's named the supporter shield, Mike.
that's very true. Thank you for that. But even that gets you into the
I'm sorry,
CCLs,
the conference
the
finalist,
conference final.
conference
Yeah,
conference winner. That's the one that you dust off and think, didn't get much out of that,
right. Exactly. So
except
I
going to
mean,
the final, which you know what I'm getting at.
I do. So I have some weight to it. I obviously hold more weight to it now because we got knocked out of the other two, but it
Sure.
is what it is. Hindsight's 2020 with that. But besides that, we have a game on Saturday against the Revolution. That's probably gonna be the tougher match between the two. To Valerie's point, they did just get embarrassed by a USL squad, so they maybe come into Philly more angry. I feel like they've always played us tough to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm actually more concerned about the Revolution than I am DC at this point in time. What are your thoughts on the Revolution coming to Chester?
Um, I always say it every single match, every single podcast. You win at home, you tie away. That's how you win championships. So I'm
Yep.
hoping that we squeeze away with at least a point from both matches. But certainly Saturday to me is probably the biggest litmus test and where we stand. Right. You could have argued that us against LAFC was probably the one. I would argue, yeah, you're right. That's the toughest. That's the toughest match we've had, I think, all season against the
Yeah.
LAFC at home. But within the conference, I think the New Englands of the world are going to be. Never mind the Cincinnati's. So I'm really excited to see if we can hang with New England. And sure, they were just embarrassed by a USL team, but that's just the beauty of a cup game. And if you followed that game at all, you could tell that come the 68th minute, I think Bo, Carlos Gill, and some other players finally stepped in. So I think Bruce Arena kind of felt like, oh shit, I guess we got to try to figure out how to win this. So
Hmm.
some of their players should be rested. They obviously don't have a midweek game. I think Wednesday's our makeup game for the
Correct.
Champions League
Correct.
break that we had. So we'll have more mileage under our legs, and obviously we have all season compared to most teams. But um, I'm hoping a DC win, and we can get to bet to boys in the future or tomorrow or whatever. But I think we'll win against DC, and I think we'll tie against New England.
Okay, I can see that. I'd be happy with 4 points. I think if you get 4 points of the 6, you consider that a solid homestand this week, especially with the midweek game, and because you just played on Saturday and traveled to the West Coast.
From Colorado.
Yeah, exactly, from Colorado. So it's a lot of traveling. You're back home. I'd be fine with 4 points, although I want the 6. Obviously, you don't want to have 3 or less. You have to at least get 4,
Right.
and that'd be fine with me. But I don't even know what time it is right now. It's 9:40. So I guess we'll do the bet in boys in blue online again because Dave is not with us today.
Yep.
We won't do one for Wednesday because that's too short of a turnaround for me to make the video. Even though it doesn't take long, it's still a pain to do it. So
You're an
we'll do.
adult. You have a real job.
I know, right? So we'll do it for Saturday, but we'll do a little prediction between you and me for Wednesday.
Yep.
So what are your predictions for Wednesday night?
I think Union win 2-1. I may be wrong in saying this, but I don't think that Glasnes has played against someone the likes of Benteke. If Benteke plays for DC United,
Okay.
that guy is a physical muscle machine.
Hmm.
I don't think Glasnes has played against somebody of that stature this year so far. Never mind Lowe or Elliott. So I think he will get a goal of some sort. He had a beautiful bicycle kick last game around.
Well done.
So I think he continues that form, but I think Carranza continues,
Ooh,
and I think that we will see a rare-ish Alabedoya goal.
about time.
We're talking about DC United, or are we talking about New England? I didn't even realize.
DC United.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
DC United. Yeah, because we'll do the Revolution prediction on this week online. All right, so you say 2-1 against DC. I like that. I'd like to see a shutout. I really would.
God, we all would. Of course.
I feel like we've had the Toronto game should have been a shutout. It wasn't. It should have at least been 4-1. The Red Bulls, you pull off the shutout just barely, and then you limited Colorado to their chances. I mean, they really didn't have anything too crazy. I know you had that first opportunity early on in the game where Andre Blake with that amazing save by his feet. But you know what, Jose? I want to be more optimistic than you. I'm going to go 2-0. I think they pull off a shutout at home. I think they're happy to be back in Chester. They've been playing well against DC United lately. So I'm hoping that can continue, and I hopefully they have some fight to them. I would like to see the change in rotation, though, with 3 in the back again. I really would. I think that's... Jim basically said he's not going to do that. But that's besides the point.
That's a different conversation altogether, Mike. But yeah, I agree with you. I would love to see that bite back.
Exactly. So I'm going to go 2-0 against DC. I am going to go with... Oh my goodness. Well, we don't have UA. Well, we might have UA, right?
I think you're more likely to see Martinez than Ua.
I think so too. Okay, we're gonna go with the Daniel Gazdag goal, and it's not gonna be a PK. It's gonna be an open play goal.
Whoa!
His first of the season.
Whoa!
And you know what? I'm gonna agree with you. I think the captain steps up, and I think the captain gets a goal. So we're gonna agree on that one. I will disagree with that. I think with Gazdag finally gets his open play goal. So that's Wednesday night. The good news for those who don't use Apple, it should be on FS1. I believe is where I saw online that it's gonna be a free access game.
I don't care. I'll be there.
Yeah, I will be there as well. I know Jose will be in 140 screaming his head off. I will be in the press box having a free meal and a nice warm seat.
You'll be
Sorry,
humming. You'll
I'll
be
be.
humming what we say.
I know I will.
Get some good
Uh,
videos of 140. Don't forget that.
yeah, I can't let Todd get all the credit. I got to step in and get some videos. And also, I'll be chauffeuring Margot around a bit to kind of get her acquainted with people there. So
Yeah, make sure you send her my way.
I will. I will. I'll be like, you see that guy jumping in the stands? That's Jose. Go find him.
Dumb shirtless guy.
Oh, Valerie will be there. Valerie will be screaming in 105. There you go, Val. It's good to have you back in Chester. So let's do the sponsors, and then we'll wrap up with a final thought. Check out Statement Games at statementgames.com for a fun new way to fantasy sports entertainment. Win gift cards and prizes. Free to sign up at statementgames.com. Doan Distillery at the Trolley Barn Public Market in Quakertown. Go to Doan Distillery to get their wide variety of drinks and spirits. Vinny's Pizza and Restaurant in Allentown, PA. Discover a new favorite by trying their top pizzas and so much more. Check out their new website, vinnyspizzarestaurant.com. Stuff the Grills at 6750 Iroquois Trail number 5 in Allentown, PA, and at stufftothegrills.com. They have homemade hot and cold sandwiches, salads, appetizers, baked goods available for any event. Memorial Day is coming up, Jose. Go to stufftothegrills.com for your catering event. And then lastly, across the pitch gear and all AAT Sports Network gear at aatsportsnetwork.com/shop. And again, one last plug for Margot, margotreedstudio.com or Margot Reed Studio on Instagram or IG. And again, she'll be with us on Wednesday. So Jose, your final thought before we close up the show.
Excited to be back at home. 2 games back to back. Gonna be long nights, but really excited to see people at the stadium having a 2-week break, 3-week break from having a home game, whatever it was. A little odd considering the quick clip that we were going at, but really excited to see all of you. Stop by 140, or if you see Mike, just say hello to us. We're more than happy to chat with you and cheer on our boys. So let's go.
Yeah, same here, man. It's been nice to be doing a little break now from all the constant mayhem of games. So, and selfishly, I'm a little bit happy that they got knocked out of these tournaments, just to give us a pause from reality of the Union coverage. But again, this is Across the Pitch. Thank you. We'll be back next Monday night, hopefully, with the 3 of us with Dave and Jose. Otherwise, we'll have the match coverage. You can follow me on Twitter, Embraer1323 online, and I'll have all the match coverage and match report for AAT Sports Network. Otherwise, happy Monday night.
Happy Monday night, everybody. And you know what, Mike?
Yep.
Here's an idea. Maybe we get Margot on the podcast to ask her about her experience as a photographer at the Philadelphia Union.
There we go.
That's content, my friend.
Content, baby. Good night, everybody.